Welcome to IPA Talk. I'm Brian Schwartz along with
Alison,
and we are dubbing this the halftime show of the spring legislative session. So Alison, can you tell us where things are at?
Sure. So we are on spring break for 2 weeks. So the legislature will be back the last week of April, going into the home stretch to the end of May. So all of the bills that were in each chamber last week had to be heard on the floor in their respective chambers by Friday. So there were some late nights last week and some scrambling and trying to get some committees together to get the bills passed. So all of the House bills will now transfer over to the Senate that have been passed, and all the Senate bills that have been passed will transfer over to the House.
Right, and there were a lot of bills when we started, and there are still a lot of bills.
Right, that's right.
And one of the things that we're talking about in preparation was curricular mandates. Kind of seems to be a theme for this session.
Exactly.
Can you talk about a couple of those and hit on the PE mandate?
Sure. So the PE mandate, there were two bills. There was a House bill and a Senate bill to require 150 minutes for elementary students and 225 minutes a week of PE for middle school, junior high, and high school students. So thanks to our members and thanks to superintendents and other school board members and folks out in the field that have contacted their legislators, those bills did not advance in either chamber. In fact, the Senate sponsor was in committee last week saying that she was not going to move the bill at all. Nothing is a sure thing until the end of May, but we are pretty confident that this is not moving forward at the moment.
Well, and that speaks well to our members' involvement, right, because those were bills that had a lot of traction, it seemed, at the beginning of session. Right. So thanks to all the calls that and contacts that you made to your legislators. One of the other topics that continues to get attention, as it should, is the teacher shortage. Right. Can you talk about some of the things the legislature is doing to hopefully on the short-term and a long-term basis address the teacher shortage? Really,
it's more on the short-term basis for right now. There's a few bills out there to eliminate the basic skills test altogether. There's one bill that would eliminate it for a sunset period, so it would be only in effect until 2025. We're hopeful that might help, get some more people into the pipeline and get more people into the programs. Right. But that's really the biggest thing that's happening at the moment legislative-wise. So there are still obviously some things that we'd like to see that haven't been addressed yet.
And a related bill that passed the House and Senate last year and was vetoed by the governor was the minimum salary bill, and that is back again.
Exactly. So again, there are two bills. There's one in the Senate, there's one in the House. Both of them have passed their respective chambers, so they will be switching over. It sets up a graduated minimum salary increase for teachers up to $40,000. However, that is not the ceiling. So that minimum salary bill would go up every year according to CPI. For perpetuity. So
right, and as I've been talking to our members, I don't think the minimum is an issue, right, because that would include also it would include compensation that districts pay on behalf of teachers to TRS, but the increase every year by CPI, right, I think does cause some concern. Yes. Yeah, in terms of district budget. So we'll certainly watch that because it seems like the governor, at least initially, has indicated support for that bill.
I think so too, and I think there was an amendment placed on the Senate bill before it passed to require the professional review panel that kind of looks at EBM each year, how that will affect those districts that are below that amount currently, and what kind of resources they would need to kind of make up those gaps.
One of the topics that we hit on during our last legislative talk at the beginning of session was the abuse legislation, right, where some very high-profile and very sad cases in the CPS system have led to all kind of reform initiatives. Right. Can you talk about where that's at? Sure.
So there's been a few negotiations happening. What has advanced is a bill that is primarily language from the Illinois State Board of Education to address these educator misconduct issues. So there are more meetings, I'm sure, to come to try to cobble together all of the bills that have been out there to address this issue, whether it's related to reporting or mandated training for DCFS reporting, how do you handle interviews with students, and how do you handle investigations. All of those things, I think, are going to be in one, at least maybe one bill or maybe a package of bills to kind of address that issue. So stay tuned. We will be kind of keeping an eye on that and participating in those discussions.
Right. And one of the things we were concerned about is just all these bills passing individually. And it seems like the legislature, both the House and the Senate, is looking at a process where the bills get heard, the concepts get heard, and then we'll have a bill or a package of bills at the end of session to address the problem.
I think there's been a conscientious effort to try to not make it confusing at the final product.
Okay. One of the other bills that has gotten a lot of attention recently, and it kind of maybe came out of nowhere, it seems, is the compulsory education bill.
Right. So Senator Lightford has a bill to lower the compulsory age to 5. So a student would need to be 5 by May 31st. And so school districts would essentially need to, provide kindergarten. It does not require full day kindergarten. So, at least from my understanding, I think most districts, if not all, probably have at least partial day kindergarten. So it maybe wouldn't be as big of an impact if you don't have to have full day. But there could be a few more students at your door come that time in school.
Sure. So the second half of session brings in earnest the budget for the state, and the governor's proposed his budget. The state board has proposed their budget, and the legislature will now
they'll do what they do. So, most of the appropriations committees in the House and Senate have had several hearings for both agencies and advocacy organizations that want to come and share their thoughts on the budget line items and the budgets themselves from various agencies. So the legislators will be taking that information back to their smaller groups to start crafting the budget. An interesting piece to go along with that would be the constitutional amendment proposal to institute a graduated income tax. So, without getting into all the details, so basically it would revamp our income tax structure to more of a graduated income tax instead of a flat tax.
Similar to the federal system.
Exactly. So, and it's supposed to bring in more money. We'll see. There's different analysis that's out there that might differ, and depending on who you ask. But that's the idea. And I think the governor is maybe predicating some of his budget on some of those numbers as well.
Right, and that would take not only passage of the state legislature, but would also require a constitutional amendment to amend the Constitution.
Yep.
So we've got a long way to go yet.
That's right.
And we will keep you updated on everything that will happen in Advocacy in Action. You can click on the link that's on your screen now. For Alison Maley, I'm Brian Schwartz. This is IPA Talk.